Assalamu alaykum, dear listeners. It is day 6 of Ramadan here in the UK. Every morning, as I write the notes for a new episode, I find myself more immersed in the beautiful message of the Quran. And I want to say thank you to all of you for your continued engagement, because it is so energizing to do this work and see how it is benefiting you as well. And if you have your own interpretations of the aspects of the Quran that I've picked up, please do share them in comments. I would love to read them. I'm going to introduce a new concept to you today that features in Maulana Islahi's tafsir of the Quran, Tadabbur-i-Qur'an. As you know, I'm a big fan of this tafsir. Maulana Islahi points to us the concept of amūd, with an ayn, amūd. The meaning of the word amūd is from amad, which means pillar, flagpole, buttress or column. You can think of it as a prop or support that carries weight. Maulana Islahi demonstrates that each chapter of the Quran has an amad, or a central pillar or idea around which the narrative rotates. This is one of the reasons why the Quran adopts chapterization. I'm going to demonstrate this today using a short surah. So I'm going to read Surah Al-Tin today, which is chapter 95, a short chapter which contains within it fascinating history of prophecy. This history of prophecy is linked to an affirmation of and emphasis on the idea of accountability, reward and punishment in the hereafter. And it is this idea of accountability that forms the amūd of this surah. Let me read the surah first. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Wat-tini waz-zaytun wa turi sinin wa hadal baladil amin. Laqad khalaqnal insana fi ahsani taqweem thumma radadnahu asfala safilin. إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات فلهم أجر غير ممنون فما يكذبك بعد بالدين أليس الله بأحكم الحاكمين. I'll read the translation now. By the fig and the olive and the Mount of Sinai and the city of security, we have indeed created man in the best of moulds. Then do we abase him to be the lowest of the low, except such as believe and do righteous deeds, for they shall have a reward unfailing. Then what can after this contradict thee as to the judgment to come? Is not Allah the wisest of judges? This is Yusuf Ali's translation. Now you might think at this point, where is the history of prophecy in this surah? Well, it is sitting in the first 3 verses. Allah is saying that the fig and the olive, Mount Sinai and the city of sanctuary bear witness. And how do they bear witness? Let's find out. The first verse, by the fig and the olive. These references to fruits utilize the Arabic linguistic practice of naming places after the type of produce that would be abundant in that location. Hence, fig and olive are specific places, namely Bethphage, known as the house of unripe figs, and the Mount of Olives. Prophet Isa alayhi stopped at Bethphage, the historical site on the east side of the ancient city of Jerusalem, before he proclaimed his message to the entire city from the Mount of Olives. So this verse is referring to the prophethood and mission of Isa alayhi. The second one, and the Mount of Sinai. In Arabic, Tur Sinin, this reference is to the revelation of the Torah and the start of Prophet Musa's mission at Mount Sinai. And finally, Haza Baladil Amin, and this city of security. This is the city of Makkah, the site of the ancient sanctuary of Kaaba, where warfare was forbidden and where travelers and traders could find rest and peace. This verse is referring to the prophethood and mission of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The late Muhammad Asad, who wrote the beautiful tafsir, the message of the Quran, is also of a similar view, although he points to Palestine and Syria, the area where most of the Abrahamic prophets were born, and called their communities to embrace faith in Allah. These landmarks bear witness that Allah has sent clear guidance to human beings, created in the best of moulds, to elevate themselves to excellence, moral virtue, and God consciousness. Yet many of us choose to race to the bottom and become the lowest of the low. The greedy siblings who don't share inheritance, the controlling parents who mutilate their children's personalities, the capitalists who do not pay or deliberately depress workers' wages, those who go to war to steal resources, those who engage in dehumanization and commit genocide, those who throw litter on the streets and pump out sludge into rivers, those who continue to poke scars into the earth's womb and line their pockets gleefully even as the planet loses its fertility. Those who use religion to traumatize, dehumanize, and obfuscate. Those who steal public taxes and build mansions. The bankrupt criminals we reward with responsibility for world leadership and high office. Those who literally and symbolically strip women of their dignity and humanity, and misuse religion to commodify women for the private consumption of men, as Dr. Khalid Abul Fadl notes so eloquently. And the lowest of the low, who use Allah's gift of fossil fuel wealth and use it to build gold-plated toilets to defecate in, rather than uplift the orphaned and the hungry. In this short episode, I'm unable to do justice to the depth of historical and linguistic arguments that Maulana Islahi has brought to the tafsir of this surah, but I hope that you found the historical and theological insights fascinating. For me personally, the connection Quran creates by citing the long history of prophecy across nations and tribes should also motivate us today to think bigger and think global. The key reflection for today is that Allah has created us in the best of molds to achieve greatness and excellence. He has sent us guidance over millennia to help us find the path, yet some of us choose to diminish ourselves and become the lowest of the low. We too have the responsibility to bear witness to truth and justice. I'm going to finish with a quote by Dr. Khalid Abul Fadl, one of the greatest Muslim scholars of our time and whose work I cite very often. He says, Muslims have a choice. They can continue to ignore the Quranic command and bear witness only to myopic issues that are of concern solely to Muslim culture, like making a big to-do about chadar, the hijab, or other so-called Islamic issues. Or they can wake up to the marching orders that God gave them. You shall bear witness for the sake of God for justice. You shall bear witness at humanity. Assalamu alaykum.